So the next lesson, which is lesson 5, I want us to look at how we can connect to the database. So the whole idea of you building an application is for you to be able to have your data saved into some real database, and that you can persist data from the database. So when you're building any real world application, you're going to have three components. You are going to have the front end application, you're going to have the backend application, which is your server, and you're also going to have your database server. All right, so these three components are going to communicate to each other. So the client is going to send a request to the um, server, to your API server. Maybe the client wants to add some data, so the client is going to send some data, and then when that data is sent to your backend API, your backend API is going to do some checks on that data, do some processing, and if all the data is correct, then it is going to make another request to the database in order to save that data. So anytime the client comes back, let's say now they want to view the data, again they're going to make a request to your backend API, and then the backend API is going to fetch that data from the database, and then it is going to send it back to the client. And that is how communication happens in any real world application, even the Facebook, um, YouTube, or any web application you are using. And therefore it becomes now necessary that we know how to connect our backend into a database. And there are so many types of database systems, database management system that we can use, and therefore the one we have chosen to use here is the MongoDB. I can see Samuel is raising a hand. Samuel, you can ask a question.
It was by mistake.
Oh, okay. Let's proceed. So we have different types of database that you can use for your application. For example, we have MySQL database, we have Postgre database, we have Oracle database. Is it Oracle? Yeah, Oracle database. We have Microsoft SQL server, we have Mongo database. So the choice depends on the suitability of your application. So the one we are going to use in this case is that we are going to use MongoDB. And therefore, it means we need to know how to create that database, how to get the credentials, that is the password, connection URL, username, and then how we can write the code to connect our backend to the database. All right. So we follow these symbol steps. So the first thing, we must make sure we create a Mongo Atlas Cloud account, and then after we have the account, we can create a cluster, and then we can create a database. Then after we have the database created, we can now get the, after we have the cluster created, I mean, Mongo is going to provide us with some credentials, which include the URL for you to connect, the password for you to connect, and the username for you to connect to your database. Then you're going to use those credentials to connect from your code. So we are going to write some code in the index.js that will help us to connect to our database. Alright, and that's why I told you the other time I sent you a link for the Mongo Atlas. I don't know how many of you have been able to create Atlas account, so that you have something that looks like this. Is there anyone who was able to create Atlas account?
I did.
You did. That is Ochari. Any other person who has been able to create Atlas account?
Yeah, I did it also.
All right, Thomas.
Yes, I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, so for those who have not done, the steps are very simple. I've shared the link. I don't know if I can trace the link on our group now. Atlas, it must be up somewhere up here. Yes, this particular link here. So when you click on this link, let me copy it and open. And because this Gmail account of mine already has Atlas account created, I want to open another Gmail account so that I can demonstrate for those who are fresh. Okay, so if you are in your browser like this, you paste that URL and then click it. You're going to see this interface. So what you're going to do is to sign up with Google. You click on this one, and it is going to give you the Gmail account to select. So if I select this one, it asks me to continue, so just click continue. And now it is creating an account and signing you in. So you click this accept terms and privacy policy, submit, and then so it is saying registration success, then loading for some time. So it is going to ask you some questions just to get to know what you want to do on this cloud platform. So you just select and select any. It does not have any effect. So maybe I have 1 to 6 month experience. Yes, select all those parameters. You select the language you're going to use. So Mongos, or you can say JavaScript, and then select location, whatever location you want. Maybe let's say inventory data. Microservices, click finish. And now it brings you here where you just select the region, so you can just move with the default one. Say I will do this later. And now it should create you should be able to get your dashboard like this. So once you get your dashboard like this, then you create, you see we have clusters, all right, then we have databases. So click on this cluster, and then you create a new cluster, build a cluster, and then you are going to select the free plan, unless you want to pay for it. Maybe you have some huge data, but for our case, because we're just doing the practice, this space is enough for us. So it gives you 512 free memory storage and some RAM and CPU. So you select the free version, and then what other configurations do you make? Then you proceed to create deployment. So now it gives you a cluster. Now you have a cluster created. Once you create a cluster, you can see Mongo Cloud will give you username. Your database username is now this one, and your password is this one. Alright, so you can copy them and use them in your code, or you can just close. So, and then you're going to select this choose connection method, and let's select MongoDB canvas, and therefore you can see that they give you a URL here. This is the connection URL that you're going to use. So let me copy this URL, and we are going to paste it. We are going to our env file. Remember, we said all the environment variables, for example database connection credentials, we put them in the env file. So we are going to add another property, call it MongoDB URL, and that is going to be equivalent to whatever we have gotten here. So this is the URL that we're going to use to connect to your database. When you look at this URL, it tells you /db username. So we are going to replace this with the username, and then you replace this part with the actual password. So where do we get the password from? We've just had it right now here, so you can now close here. So if you want to get your password or credentials, you can come to the database access on this part, click on that, and it should give you, let me check this one, network access. So first of all, you need to come to your network access tab here, and then you edit this rule and say allow access from anywhere, so that you don't have to have some restrictions. So click on this, and once you click, it should give you 000 here, then confirm. When you confirm, it is pending here until it is active, then you can proceed. So now it is active. Then again we go back to our database access. Let me see, we get the credentials. Let me click back. My network is a bit slow. So if you can't see the passwords here, just click on database access and create a new user. So let us add a new database user. So the authentication method, we can use password. So let's type the username here. So we can call it Kimu underscore user1. Then we just, you can type any password you want here, or you can auto generate. You allow the system to generate for you. So you can show it here to see how it looks like. Then you can copy it here. Alright. So once you have this, you copy that password and you go back to your connection URL. Under this section of password, db password, you paste the password that you've just copied to replace this. Then under the place of db username, you remove that and replace it with the actual database username that you have created, kimu user1. So now you have your full URL, which will now be active. Then you come back and make sure that after you have created the user and the password, make sure to save or to add the user so that it can be updated. Oh, so it tells you must choose at least one role. So let's add a role here. Or we can have roles. So let us put as Atlas admin. Let's try to add a user again. Now the user is saved. So you can now see below your database access, you now have one user, and this is the role of the user. Now once you have that, and you have this connection URL, then you can come now back to index.js and write the code that should be able to connect this backend application to your database. Guys, are we still together? Can someone confirm with thumbs up that you can hear me? All right, let's proceed. So after you have created the user on the Atlas, you've gotten the URL and replace it here. So now you need to now write the code in the index.js that will now connect to the database once this application is started. All right, so and for that I've placed for you a code here, and this code should be able to connect so I'm going to replace whatever here. And so let's understand what this code does. So as usual, in the first line we are importing express. In the second line we are importing, which library are we importing here? We are importing Mongoose library, and this library is the one that we will use to connect to our database. All right, in the third line, what are we doing? We are importing .env file, and not env file, but we are importing .env library. Then in the fourth line, we are now creating an instance of express application by saying constant app is equal to express. So this one will initialize express application. Then in the next line, we are loading the environment variables from env file by using .env.config. So we are loading all these environment variables here. Then here we are, what are we doing on line 9? We are creating a constant variable port. We are assigning to the port from the environment variable. Also we are declaring a variable mongo URL, and we are assigning it to the mongo URL from the env file. So when you go to your env file, MongoDB URL must be the same as this MongoDB URL. Then now we are connecting to the database. So this code of line from line 13 should be able to connect us to the database once we start this application. So we are saying now we are using the Mongoose that we have, the Mongoose library that we've just imported. Okay, so we're saying mongoose.connect, and we provide the URL for that connection, and then if the connection is successful, lock a statement saying connected to DB successfully, and then after connecting to the database, then make this application to listen on port 8080, and then after listening on port 8080, you should also log a statement saying server running on port 8080. All right, so let me remove this to make the code a bit clear. All right, so you can see now after we save the changes, the application restarts and it connects successfully to the database, and after connection it now serves our application on port 8080. So then we can even import those APIs and we use them here. So let me also import the API. Symbol API route is equals to require slash router slash symbol route. Then now we can say app dot use into bracket slash API slash v1 slash, then direct that to symbol API route. So we are now using the API. Let me comment, write a comment for this, using the APIs. So now we can see the application connects to the database successfully. But now when you go back to your Atlas, when you go back to our Atlas here, we have a cluster. A cluster is just like an environment. So within the cluster, you must have databases that we are going to create tables in it. So when you want to create a specific table, let's say for example, in this project that we are building, it is what kind of project is it? So maybe let us say we are building a blog post database. So we want to create a database called blog database that will store all the information about the blog. So we come inside the env, and at the end of this URL we add the database name. We can just decide any name we are going to call our database. So let us call it blog underscore db. So it is a blog post db or whatever you want to call it, and you save that changes. So now when you restart the application, it should start and run successfully. So in this, let's browse collections. So let me restart again. Then click on the cluster. clusters, and then within the clusters let's browse the collections to see what collections do we have. So you can see by default Mongo gives you some ready-made templates or collections that are already there. Like for example, you can click on users. This one now acts like tables. So but the objective thing, even before moving to explaining the concept of tables and collections, I want you to understand how to create an account on Mongo Cloud platform, then how to get that credentials, and how to successfully write the code to connect your database. So once we are connected to the database like this, then now we can be able to create tables, we can be able to save the data into that tables, and we can be able to fetch the data using now the queries, something we call the database queries. All right. So so far up to this point, maybe if someone has a question where you have not understood, you can ask so that I can clarify. Any questions so far?